Well, last year, members of the Board of Education, along with Blaine Cunningham, who is the manager of our buildings and grounds, Brian Freeman, who's our assistant superintendent of business and finance, as well as the building principals, we inspected every square foot of our buildings. Now, this building condition survey, which is a state-mandated assessment of all our facilities, recommends that we consider some key infrastructure improvements that will affect the health, safety, and efficiency of all of our facilities. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from Labella Associates and Campus Construction Management members as we hear an overview of the scope of this potential project, which will focus upon the replacement of our original boilers in 10 of our buildings, updating the Spry Middle School auditorium, parking reconfigurations, a new library at Thomas, and ADA accessible playgrounds in our elementary buildings. Brian, would you like to introduce our guest?
Sure, I would love to. With us tonight are Dan Peters from Labella, Mike Short from Labella, Mark Esposito from Campus Construction, and then, of course, Blaine Cunningham, our Director of Facilities. Mike, you did a wonderful synopsis of slide number 1, so I'm really just going to say, including to the building condition survey that was completed over between 2015 and 2016, really a lot of our year-to-year budget process tries to capture some of the needs throughout the district as well as we've planned through this project. Really what that building condition survey did was identify several of those items that Mr. Suffoletto just mentioned as well. But really, boiler replacement, HVAC upgrades at our elementary common areas, so air conditioning, which is in common areas like at DeWitt, in the cafetorium, Plank North, places that don't have it currently. Buildings and grounds storage centralization has been a common theme that's come up not just from us from a logistical purpose, but from many people in the community that have reached out to members of the Board of Education, Mr. Gamina, myself at sporting events, or Mr. Cunningham at sporting events of the Averti trailers scattered throughout the district, and can we do something to get rid of that. Spry Cafetorium and District Office abatement, reconfiguration, playgrounds at the elementary buildings, Thomas Library, student drop-off and traffic flow, and parking lot issues here at Spry. Many of the buildings still have the pegboard that hangs on the walls. That's unsightly. You can't do a lot with it instructionally. We've been replacing that, but to do that on a larger scale. Ceiling tiles in many of the buildings need to be replaced with new updated LED fixtures. And then really a bathroom overhaul at the elementary buildings came about, and Plank North window replacement as well. So when we looked at excuse me, these items, what's the total cost? It's a little over $43.5 million. What's that estimated tax impact? Roughly $20 to $25 per year on an average household in Webster. One of the things we are working through right now as we get into the nitty-gritty details is a borrowing strategy that will hopefully align with some debt service coming off from earlier in the 2000s. We had some projects, Willink being one of them, that was borrowed over a 20-year period. The payments on those should fall off within the next 3 to 4 years as this project ramps up, so it could be a nice even swap. So we won't see a lot of fluctuation between budget to budget years. But this project itself would estimate to be a $20 to $25 impact. Couple areas we do need to work with state ed as we design this on what's aidable and what's not. We've had some conversations already, but we need to further those as we get into the specifics. But I will tell you the entire project will not be completely aidable. The storage facility is something that New York State will not aid because it's not really impacting instruction. But that doesn't mean it's not worth it, because on the next slide, we'll be saving a ton of money on a year-to-year basis by no longer renting Averti trailers. One of the savings that we would project. Also, the discontinuation of the Basket Road lease by the cafetorium here would start a domino effect that would free up space right where we're sitting currently, which is roughly the same size, if not a shade larger than what we're currently leasing at Basket Road. Bring it all back here, we no longer have to pay the lease costs on a year-to-year basis. All told, between those two things, we're looking at $100,000 a year between what we rent for Verde trailers and the Basket Road lease. And then energy savings are really to be determined. New boilers, we have to see when we go to bid what kind of boilers we're going to get. Will there be savings? Absolutely. Can we pinpoint that number? Not until we get them installed, up and running, and see what's happening. Same thing with windows at Plank North. Right now, it's one of the only Energy Star non-certified buildings in the district because of the window design there. Replacing those is going to impact energy costs there significantly. And of course, with LED lightings, ceiling replacements throughout, we have to wait and see what actually happens, what comes to fruition before we can say, yes, we're going to save X, Y, and Z once the project gets underway. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dan and Mike to take us through a couple overviews of some of the work we're going to be doing.
Thanks, Brian. It's working. Lights on. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Is it okay if I stand up? I'm going to walk around, and while Brian is playing an animation here, this is of Spry. It flies around the site, showing the upgrades that we're proposing around you and behind you. We've also printed out some boards, and everything that you see here is essentially in concept form based on some of the information we've been able to gather. Our plan is that as we develop this further, we would imagine things would get adjusted somewhat. We have to have something to go by, so as we put this together, we feel it works very well based on our belief and our professional opinion, experience of what we've done in the past. We've done a lot of these sort of projects where there's a lot of nut and bolt work. There's a lot of commonality between the elementary schools and the boilers, and what we're doing with the playgrounds and those kind of things. But there is some specifics with Spry as well as Thomas where we're adding square footage. And as Brian mentioned, we're in conversations with the state education department to make sure we can get the maximum allowable aid that we're showing here. So just looking at what you see here in the site, we're going to maximize as much parking as possible. I think we're able to add about 150 plus or minus additional spots. The bus loop gets readjusted. And that allows us to put all the buses full size as well as the smaller buses in there at once. So that would get adjusted. What you're seeing here is the new planned facility entrance for the cafetorium. And this cafetorium here at Spry, which is again behind you there, is going to be designed somewhat similar to the way Willink is. There'll be some adjustments to the aspect of how that's laid out. We're able to put the cafetorium in this location and with minimal effect to your existing building and not destroying any existing aidable space that's there now. So that was one of the reasons why we position the building addition in that lower right corner where we decided to put it because of the least amount of impact on the existing building. So we put some snippet of some views around you. Again, we can, as we fly around, there's a bunch of different views, but one of the things too this does, off of the north side street, that's, what is Sanford? What is that, Sanford. As you enter into the parking lot and into the site from the north, we're trying to somewhat divide or segment a little bit buildings and grounds, which is immediately to the west or off to the right. And this layout helps us get a planting row for trees to help buffer that, as well as we're now going to have the storage addition that Brian was talking about, connecting the current outbuildings that are there. So that collectively will connect all those together and allow for the new front door to that to be on the north side, and so somewhat dividing itself from Spry, which is it's safer, it's better to do, we get more parking this way, and it looks more cohesive. So, and we're trying to help dress that side up as you come in. And this also allows for additional tennis courts because the stuff that's there now, pickleball courts, the stuff that's there now would get obviously moved into the building addition and some of the Averti trailers that are to the south. And the parking lot that's up to the north side of that, currently there's some tennis courts there now. So.
Dan, can you do me a favor? Can you fly through that? Can you just do the fly through one more time?
Sure.
And sort of narrate it
Yes.
as you go
Yep.
through?
So this, we're looking north here, getting right down into the pickleball courts. The track is off to the left, and the field's off to the right. So here we're flying through over the top of the courts. This parking lot, it gets adjusted. It expands a bit to the east. I'm sorry, west. This would be a new parent drop-off you see kind of flying by right here. We've been able to elongate that to allow for the cars to queue up in a longer distance, a safer distance. You're seeing here fly around of the cafetorium. We've picked up some of the detailing on the existing old front entrance off of the existing Spry. Thanks for stopping it.
I want to make sure you've had time to...
Yeah, yeah, it's on a loop which we could slow down. You know, one of the things, if you could go back a little bit.
I want them to see that.
An important thing to recognize is when you come off at 250 to the south side of the site, there was issues with parents dropping off and conflicting with the traffic on 250. So maybe just click a slide back and and then go forward and just pause. I could talk to, if I could walk up here, you could kind of see this gets elongated through here, allowing parents to drop off from this point to this point. Cars can queue up, and as you pull out in this fashion, so you have queue point from here all the way up to 250. And now you currently come directly south of this portion of the building, and there's a drop loop there. And so we're proposing to put the cafetorium in that location, and then a small parking lot for the events, and then allow the parents to drop off in a better linear spot here. And then that ties in with the bus loop that is where you currently have it. It's just a little more defined so we get maximum length out of it.
And one of the advantages, if you look right down here now, we'd have a right hand and a left hand turning lane out onto 250, which we don't have in this proposal. Yes.
Yeah. Something I forgot to mention, but that helps again with the queuing aspect and less congestion. And again, this is, we would anticipate through this process getting more involvement from you folks, your staff, and to further define what's happening here.
So as you fly by that, it's a two-story cafetorium.
That's
and it's
correct.
going to be linked to the music wing here at Spry, correct?
That's correct.
There's a way to link
That's
the
right.
music wing directly into the...
Yes.
It's going to be very easy for them to be practicing up in their practice rooms and then walk straight down to the stage.
That's
Something
correct.
to that effect, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And the control room, sound, lighting, all that would be up there as well. So you'd have direct access to that because of that level. And again, there's nothing being affected other than that sawtooth corridor that's back there now. So it fits perfectly
Gotcha.
there.
Thanks.
And then those larger doors in the back would allow access to backstage to pull sets in and out, deliveries, those kind of things. And then we're connecting. You can see we've been able to maintain that old radius current south part of the existing original building, so we're not getting rid of any of that character. And in fact, we're trying to pull some of that from the other side of the main entrance of Spry into what we're doing. So we've picked up some queuing on that existing entrance to pull over there. In this plan as well, there's a lot of space moving around, but because we're able to build the cafetorium and kitchen, that frees up the current existing space to become the library, which shows behind you, there's a set of plans there. That'll become the library, and now that frees this space up here on this level, as well as below here, which is the current library, to become professional development. And then you free up not having to lease a space on Basket Road to allow to do that, all within your existing structure. Again, this kind of shows you going over to buildings and grounds and providing a new front door there. Okay, so that kind of shows the overview of Spry. Thomas Library. So I'll try to talk fast here and we'll re-loop through here. But this is a view taken from the west side, 5 mile, 5 mile line. And there is an existing courtyard in the northwest corner that's currently next to the existing library. That's what you see, this popped up shed roof here with the glass on the west side. That, in addition to the existing library, which there's some views behind you over there, is what the new library and media center would end up going to. And the thought around this is to make more interactive spaces for students to have breakout spaces where they can get together in groups and they can schedule the rooms. There's multiple areas to do that. Obviously, you have the stacks. We like to radiate around the stacks so that you can have visibility down them. So we still have to work with your librarian and figure out how that's going to work well. But as a concept, you can kind of see here the sky or the sawtooth shed roof letting light into that space. We're just really putting a cap on your existing courtyard, so you don't have to build all those walls. You're just putting a roof on it, so the cost is a lot more efficient to do that. And again, we're not affecting any classroom space because it's the backside of a corridor and it's already the other side of the library. So it makes for the most efficient cost to build. These are just partition spaces with some floating clouds to just define the areas. And again, we haven't gone through and programmed what might be needed here, but the thought is that we provide separated spaces where kids can collectively get together, collaborate, do group studies, small group studies, and then you could get together and the walls are flexible so you could have a large group in there as well. Pop up some of the ceiling, but again, we're not doing anything with the roof here. We're just exposing some of the structure and just allowing for that volume. So you can see as you define with furniture and some high back, some low back, some high table, low tables, that allows the space to get a little more defined. And we're doing some of this around the area, and we're finding it very effective. So this is the section that was the courtyard. And so to the left, we'd obviously have an existing wall that we'd pull some out to gain us access into here. But we'd keep all the roof intact and do that through just structural columns and use what you got in place right now. This gets out to that corridor. that's not really how that wall is. We just obviously didn't spend a lot of time with that sidewall. And then again, this kind of gets you into the space and allows for student breakout spaces. And we're finding that corridors no longer just become a way for the kids to get to a space, but we want to allow them to have collision space to collaborate. And we feel this would do that. Also, part of what we're going to be doing, here's some pictures of before and after. I think this was at State Road.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is at State Road. So, you know, the boilers in the past are obviously they're really big. And now we'll have some redundancy, and you can kind of see that's the space. I know it's a lot of pipes and stuff. You can't really pretty that up that much, but it's going to create a lot more room. There's a lot more efficiencies. It'll clean it up. It's easy to run. There's redundancy in there because there's multiple boilers. They're in sections, so if one goes down, you still have multiple units to power the building. And so this is current design that we're doing nowadays, a lot more efficient. So your energy costs are going to go way down. So left before, right after. And that's going to happen throughout most of the elementary buildings.
So, being the construction manager, other than managing the budget, another thing we really manage is the timeline of the project and the coordination pieces of it. In front of you are some key dates of things that we'll be doing in the next few months, gearing ourselves toward that December vote date. At the upcoming meeting, we're going to be issuing the first part one of the environment assessment form for the State Environmental Quality Review Act, which is the SEQR, which is a process that's mandated to do in New York State prior to the project. As we go up and have that resolution for the lead agency, there's a 30-day wait period, and then in the October board meeting, we'll declare, the district will declare themselves the lead agent. And moving forward into that, at the November board meeting, we'll be looking to have a resolution for adopting the capital improvement project, anticipation for a referendum vote. And that process takes 45 days from that November. So that's why you see that laid out in that time period.
Any questions on the time frame?
And then a timeline for the construction in itself. We're looking at phasing this project for two purposes, to split up the design time because some of the portions of the additions take a little bit longer to design, and also to get aid flowing for the district sooner with the new New York State SED aid regulations. 18 months after approval date at SED on a project, you can begin getting your aid. So by separating this project into two phases, we can start getting aid on portions of this project so the district can start getting money back for the aidable parts of this project. So the first phase, what we're looking for is the elementary buildings in the work over at Schrader Boiler Room. And then the second phase would be the Thomas and Spry work with the additions, just because some of that design work is going to be a little bit more time to develop. In laying this out, we would be looking for approval at SED on the first phase, January of 2018, which will allow us to go into the bid process and start construction in April of 2018, and pretty much wrap that up by October of 2019, giving us 2 full summers to complete all of the work throughout those buildings. And in the same time, the design team would continue working on designing of the phase 2 of this, submit it to SED, looking for approval in the July-August timeframe of 2018, bid that in the fall when we have a very good bidding period, and then proceeding with that work. And again, that gives us 2 full summers to build the cafetorium in addition work at Thomas, the library.
Right. And one of the reasons to split it up is so take something that isn't as intensive as replacing the ceiling tiles or the pegboard in some of the schools. We could be done in a month, and if we had it all together, we're waiting close to 2.5 years before we start getting aid on something that was completed 24 months earlier. So rather than waiting all that time for something that could be completed sooner, why we go with the phasing route that we do. So with that, questions, discussions, the picture boards are behind you. Want to give you something a little bit more tangible to look at than what we had done previously at the last workshops, rather than just with PowerPoint. But any questions right now that?
You okay, Tammy?
I don't have any questions. I look forward to possibly estimating, if that's possible, what the energy savings could be. Outdated equipment, outdated facilities, we all know that
Right.
things can be done better, and certainly to take advantage of our share of state aid makes a lot of sense, so.
Yeah,
look
as soon
forward to this.
as soon as all those items are online and operable, and what we say is turned over to the district for us, once the contractors have completed the work, and it's now ours to monitor, we'll put that as part of the budget process for that year to say, all right, this is what this project has done for us in energy savings, what we're projecting to save.
Right. Thank you.
Linda, any?
Just one question. The buildings and grounds, when, is that phase 1, phase 2?
That'd be part of phase 1.
Phase 1, okay. Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you for the visuals, appreciate it, it helps see it, so good job, thank you very much.
Michael?
No, very nice job. I started 4 years ago on the board, and this is one of the talks that we started back then, and it's good to see the things being taken care of and the boilers and being proactive on a lot of this stuff. Cleaning up our mess out back here is going to be nice, Blaine, and I like that, thank you. Good job.
Ann?
Yeah, just more of a comment. I don't remember, Brian, if you mentioned that these boilers are original boilers in every case in our buildings. It's not like we're replacing a second or third time. And I just want to compliment Blaine and his department. This boiler in this building has got to be close to 100 years old.
This one is actually 1994, but
Oh,
the rest,
okay.
the rest of the district.
All right.
Like
Okay.
Schrader,
I was going to say, how
Schrader,
is
like
that
Tom,
possible?
yeah,
But
it's
but
1960.
clearly, the good work and the maintenance and the preventative work has allowed us to get every ounce of usability of that, and I just think it's very impressive. But I did kind of wonder how Spry's could be the original one, but
Did they even have heating back then?
You wore sweaters.
yeah, you wore sweaters. So thank you so much.
Sue?
Very good presentation. I appreciate your thoroughness. Just had one quick question. These little buildings are out structures. What are they?
So, the one that's closest to you that has a shed on it?
Like a lean-to?
Yeah, that's, underneath that, it's gonna be stacked plows, so the plows are covered and they're kinda out of the weather to help protect them a bit, and there's ways to stack them together and get access, so that's what that is.
Okay.
And next to it is bulk containment, so like mulch, sand, stone,
Yeah.
and instead of it in piles on a tennis court, it's, around, kind of like how if you go by Thomas, and they have those containment areas.
Right.
so.
All right, thank you.
Well, if the board has no further questions, we are seeking a motion to initiate a formal referendum process for this capital project that would have a vote on December 13th of 2016, and the sum will not exceed $43,539,223. Can we have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, gentlemen, you've got some work to do.
Thank you so much.